Just give us 1 hour, and we'll help you change the way you think about happiness. Harvesting Happiness with Lisa Cypers Kamen is a fresh talk radio approach promoting happiness from the inside out. Happiness is a choice, and happiness can be cultivated and harvested. Each week, Lisa shines her light on well-being and global human flourishing by presenting a diverse and proactive collection of the greatest thinkers and doers who have devoted their lives to creating a better world in which to live. As a filmmaker, positive psychology coach, author, professor, and change agent specializing in the field of happiness, Lisa Cypers Kamen is widely recognized as an expert in the field. On the show, she also focuses on military families and service personnel returning with PTSD, traumatic brain injury, and other post-deployment civilian life reintegration issues. So, let's spend some time getting to the heart of the matter on Harvesting Happiness on toginet.com. And now, here's your host, Lisa Cypers Kamen.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening wherever you are. Welcome to Harvesting Happiness Talk Radio, where we explore the very serious business of happiness, sustainable well-being, and human flourishing. We are not talking about that annoying yellow smiley face. No, no, no. We are talking about something much deeper and critical to the success of humanity. Authentic happiness is not selfish, egotistical, or narcissistic. In fact, it is essential in order for humankind to thrive. Sustainable happiness is important because it not only elevates our own well-being locally, but also contributes to collective global flourishing. The achievement of a happy life is not only positively good for us, it is constructively good for those around us. In short, happiness matters. Happiness comes from the heart, and this show is all about the heart. Alrighty then, let's get to it. Today we're talking about health empowerment. We have got a healthcare crisis on our hands in the Western world, or at least a good portion of the Western world. The question of the day is, how do we properly deal with healthcare? Is it about caring for the diseases, caring for our bodies once we become ill? Or is it really about preventative medicine and integrative medicine and learning how to take care of our bodies, our minds, our spirits, and our emotions in order to prevent getting sick in the first place? And when we do have health challenges, because we're taking such good care of our bodies, that we're better able to manage and eradicate the symptoms of a health challenge. And my first guest today has been doing just that for over 30 years. Dr. Bertrand Babinet has been a clinical healthcare provider in the field of alternative and complementary medicine for decades. He has his experiences are vast, and I'm just going to give you a little taste. Humanistic psychology, human development, education, acupuncture, neurolinguistic programming, spiritual studies, structural integration, color therapy, nutrition, energy healing. He's also developed the 5 dynamics of health, which specifically is an integrated method mapping out the foundations of physical and psychological well-being. He holds a PhD in human development, a master's degree in international relations, spiritual counseling, as well as a bachelor's degree in business and law from the University of Paris. Good morning, Dr. Babinet. Welcome.
Good morning, Lisa.
Wow, we could have a show just on your experience and your credentials. But most importantly, it's the gifts that you've been able to give resulting from your education and your experience. Tell us a little bit about how you develop the techniques and methodologies that you use in your practice.
Well, I had an anecdotal experience many, many years ago. I was about in my 20s, and I had just discovered in our family home in Normandy a book about herbal medicine. And I was kind of fascinated. And then one of my sisters got sick. And I had this weird idea, for whatever reason, that maybe I could go in the field and find the herb that would benefit her. And so I tuned into what she had, and I went on a walk. and came back with an herb. And so then we looked into the book, how to prepare the herb. And lo and behold, it absolutely dealt with what she was worrying with. Okay. So it was a female issue. And of course, I discovered later on that it was a French equivalent of Don Quai. So strong of that intuitive ability to tune into disorder and then to tune into resources, I evolved my methodology, which is very much like that. Like, how do I get attuned to what's out of balance? And how do I create a protocol that matches that? I started doing that psychologically. Then I looked at it from the point of view of my late wife had cancer. And so I started looking much more at the biological aspect of health. For many, many years, I looked more at the kind of psycho-spiritual aspect of health. And then when my wife got sick, our late wife got sick, I started exploring much more the biochemical aspect of health and started integrating it. And what I was looking is, what is the foundation of health, both physiologically and psychologically? Psychologically, I'd done a whole lot of work as part of my PhD on the integration of Chinese medicine to the field of human development. And it was based on both brain research on five-element concept of Chinese medicine. And so I had created that sense of an inner family in the brain where there would be a father that would represent the directional, a mother would represent more the connective, a child that would represent the creative, and then what I call the grandparent that represented the cognitive and the reflective aspect of our brain, and of course the spiritual, the heart, as being the integrative aspect of the brain. So then that became a lot of the core of my practice on the psychological level, which was assessing where people were in those areas and how to bring it back into greater balance. And what I discovered is that whether I was working with the psychological aspect of health or the physiological aspect of health, there was a common denominator, which is what in the Institute of Heart Math they call heart coherence, and that I call inner peace. So it was, how do we first build up that foundation of inner peace that move us out of reactivity in a field of choice and clear direction. So in both the psychological and the physical aspect, that's very much how I work.
Let me jump in here and ask you a couple of questions, because what I hear you saying is that your approach to health and healing is very integrative, that you're utilizing almost like a medical intuitive approach. You're running people through assessments to diagnose what they're reporting that they are feeling is wrong with them, and then somehow synthesizing all of this to come up with a protocol that is, I'm assuming, nutritionally based, either with supplements, diet, and lifestyle changes.
Well, very accurate. Very accurate. It would include also energetic medicine, and it would include acupuncture, homeopathy. But it's very comprehensive, and it is definitely natural base.
And when you say energetic medicine, describe what you mean by that. Acupuncture being one of these disciplines.
Acupuncture being one, homeopathy being one. But even the way I look at the herbs, I look at them from a biochemical point of view on the one hand, but on the other hand, I really look at the spirit of the herb and what transformational energy does it have for the person. Very much the same way I was in New Zealand, several years ago, and I wrote a newsletter about the ancient treatment in the New Zealand tradition. And they really look at herb as a spiritual healing as much as a physical healing. So they would look at herb in terms of the person. What did the person need? Not just as if we could split the body and the psyche as being two different things, but how do those work together? And what I find in my experience of herb is that herbs are not just biochemical. They also have a vibrational frequency that treat the whole person. So finding the herb that addresses an issue is more than just, this herb does this or this herb does that. It's like, how does that match with the person I'm working with? Make sense?
Very much so. Let's talk about the 5 dynamics of health. We're going to go to a break in a minute or two, but I wanted to jump into that before we do. You state in your writings that there are 5 dynamics of health, and I would like for you to just briefly explain those before we go to break.
Well, what I discovered, is that everybody gets caught up in an amazing amount of detail which have to do with pathology, and that we really didn't have a paradigm of health which was based on something simple that people could understand. And one thing is sure is that all living systems have certain common denominator. We eat, we breathe, we drink, then that goes into our body. We need to transform it in things which are usable in our body. Nothing we take in is used directly. It has to be transformed. Then toxins have to be eliminated. What we don't need, we need to move out. On those 3 foundations, create what I call protection, which is the ability to maintain homeostasis and to basically hold to an equilibrium in the body. So absorption, transformation, elimination, and protection is the foundation. What I found is that in addition to that, we need heart coherence. We need inner peace. So a lot of my work with clients is also saying, how do you nurture that inner peace, what you call, sustainable or authentic happiness? It's like, how do you become happy in the way you approach your life? And in order to do that, we have to move out of reactivity to a context of personal choices based on our values, on our affinity, on our, the thing that we care about, that we are interested in, on our creative expression. And so
we are going to, Dr. Babinet, we're going to go to a break, and I'm sorry that I have to interrupt you. But when we come back, we're going to continue on with the 5 dynamics of health as prescribed by Dr. Bertrand Babinet. To learn more about his fascinating work and to perhaps even engage in a consultation, you can go to www.babinetics.com, and that's BABINETICS.com. And on Facebook, the handle is also Babinetics. Here comes the tunes. We'll be right back. And when we do, we're going to carry on with Dr. Bertrand Babinet about health empowerment or disease care in our healthcare system. Here comes those music.
We know that life is tough and that happiness can and does live along with adversity. We'll be right back to explain how on Harvesting Happiness with Lisa Cypers Kamen on toginet.com. Like us on Facebook at Harvesting Happiness and on Twitter at HH Talk Radio. Lisa returns with more of Harvesting Happiness following this short break.
Happiness is an inside job. Wear the message on t-shirts, baseball caps, sterling silver designer jewelry, and more. Please visit our online boutique at www.harvestinghappiness.com.
Are you or do you know a returning U.S. military man or woman in need of restoring joy in their lives? Did you know that our nonprofit, Harvesting Happiness for Heroes, offers stigma-free combat trauma and post-deployment reintegration programming? Check us out at www.hh4heroes.org. That's HH, the number 4, and heroes.org.
Nothing gives happiness like a free gift. Lisa Cypers Kamen has made her first ebook, Got Happiness Now? 8 Keys to Unlocking a Joyful Life, available at no cost to everyone. Unwrap your complimentary copy now by visiting www.harvestinghappinesstalkradio.com.
Welcome back to Harvesting Happiness with Lisa Cypers Kamen on Toginet, the show dedicated to promoting happiness, because happiness is a choice, and happiness can be cultivated and harvested. So let's get back to it. It's Harvesting Happiness on toginet.com. And now back to your host, Lisa Cypers Kamen.
Welcome back to Harvesting Happiness Talk Radio. If you're just joining us now, we're talking about something very important to all of us, and that is our health. And what happens to us when we become challenged by a health issue? Is the idea that we treat it as a disease, or is the idea that we preemptively strike by doing preventative medicine, taking better care of our bodies? And my guest today has been doing just that for over 30 years. Dr. Bertrand Babinet is an incredible practitioner and healer who works with a plethora of modalities to help others identify what's going on in their bodies and their minds and their hearts and their emotions, and then also working with them on an integrated level through nutrition, through energetic healing, through multiple kinds of therapies to heal what ails them. And he has a principle of the 5 dynamics of health. And during the break, he was explaining to me simply what they are. And I'm going to just rattle them off and then allow Dr. Babinet to come back in and share a brief description of them. The first is absorption. So Dr. Babinet, tell us what you mean by absorption.
Well, it's like, we need nutrients in order to function. So the easiest way to look at that is if you look at a car, it has gasoline, it has electricity, it has oxygen, it has water, and it has oil. We need 56 basic nutrients to keep our body in balance. So the first thing is that in some way, we have to look at how effectively are we taking in those nutrients in our food or in our supplement, and also how effectively they are being absorbed inside of the body? Is our digestive system actually taking those nutrients and actually taking them in? So that would be the absorption.
And then the second being transformation?
Yeah. So all those nutrients, once they have been absorbed through our food, have to be converted. So that's sometimes called metabolism. So we have to metabolize protein, we have to metabolize vegetable, we have to metabolize everything we take so that it's converted in very, very small units. For example, if we take protein, it gets converted in amino acids. If we take fat, it is converted into cellular energy. If we take carbohydrate, it is converted in cellular energy. So the question is, how effectively are we doing that conversion of the food to what its actual purpose is? How do we break it down and move it to the place where it can be used in the body?
And then the next dynamic is elimination.
So elimination is phenomenal because we live in a world which is very toxic. So unless our body is effectively moving things out, and sometimes people think of elimination just as the large intestine and bowel movement. The truth is that elimination is taking place through everything. It's taking place through our breath. It's taking place through our skin. It's taking place through the liver, who constantly is detoxifying the body. It's taking place through the whole lymphatic system, which is taking what the blood cannot use and break it down so that the germs are being moved out and all that is being moved out. So it's a very global process which is going on all the time. And there are toxins in everything. Even supplements have heavy metal toxicity. The body has to be able to move those out so that they don't accumulate.
Fascinating. And the next dynamic is protection.
Well, protection is global because in a way we're constantly exposed to germ, while being exposed to anything, fungus, parasite, virus, bacteria. I won't go into the detail. There are many, many more. Okay. And we have to be able to protect the body and maintain the homeostasis of the body, the homeostasis being the ability of the body to take care of itself. So that's a very complex process, but we need to know what's going on and how can we address those issues before they create major disorder. So the more we become good at identifying what's going on and say, okay, there is a virus, but what is that virus going to respond to? Is it echinacea? Is it astragalus? Is it going to be ginger? Is it going to be osha? Each virus will respond to a different thing in a different environment. So it's identifying what's going on and also helping the body address the issue to move it out.
Understood. And I would say that this is where we're talking about fortifying the immune system. Is this what you mean?
That would be a very big key, but there would be also all the integrity of the digestive tract. There would be the integrity of the skin. There would be the integrity of the lungs, so that the immune system would just be what we call active, immunity, but that would be also all the passive immunity, which is protecting the body before it even goes into the body to prevent it from getting sick.
Understood. And finally, the fifth dynamic, which perhaps is the most important, really, or the culminating pillar here, and that is inner peace.
Well, I think that the body doesn't work in abstraction of the rest of our consciousness. So the body works in relationship to what's happening in our psyche, in the emotion, in the mental level, in the imagination, and in the will, and also our relationship to spirit. So our brain is programmed to be reactive, and our body is programmed to be reactive. So how do we access a place inside of us which is not reactive, which is in a state of what I call inner peace, what the Institute of Heart Math call, heart coherence. So what I have created, because it's a key both to working with the psychological, and it's a key of working with the physical. Okay, I was with a friend yesterday, and they were having a couple, and they were having a big argument. And to me, it was totally obvious that the argument was that they were both reacting to each other, and neither of them knew how to go to a place where they could just be at peace, where the other person action did not produce reaction. Well, so moving to that place, so what we have discovered is that there were 5 symbols that help people do that. Nature, music, pets, babies, and focusing on the heart. They don't all work for everybody, but everyone has one of those symbols. We call them symbol because in Latin it means to reconnect. Everyone has one of those symbols where when we focus on it, we come back into a place of inner balance and receptivity. And so to me, that would be one of the big key in both the physical and psychological health is coming to a place where we know in 10 seconds or less how to come back to a place of inner balance and receptivity where we're not reactive to what's happening. And it's a critical key, both in healing the body. Now more and more we discover that meditation and prayer and all those things are critical because they bring us into a state of inner balance.
Indeed. And when we talk about healing the body and the methodologies that you employ, talk to us about biofunctional energetic medicine, because this, in essence, is a core part of your practice.
It is a very core part of my practice. It's a way of assessing the body in terms of the 5 dynamics of health, and then go from there to the symptomatology of what might be going on in the body and saying, well, yes, we do have symptoms. How is it related to those 5 dynamics? And then it goes one step beyond that, which is saying, well, are there some functional imbalances which are more genetic or more related to aging or more related to stages of life, and how do we address those? So it's a very comprehensive methodology of using biofeedback in a way. I use muscle testing in a very specific way to basically assess what's happening, not looking at each item as it's either true or not, but do we have a coherent pattern that makes sense as a whole? And based on that, can we create a treatment strategy and recheck a month later to see how effectively we actually did in addressing the issues? And the issue for me is always restoring balance, restoring the ability of the body to take care of itself. So I look at it as empowerment. Now, in some cases, it's very obvious that, especially in genetic disorder, there may be things that we need to treat on an ongoing basis. But my ideal is let's restore the integrity of what we call the terrain, right? Let's restore the integrity of the body so that it can address its own ability to respond to challenges in life, both physically and psychologically, and in self-expression, because I think a lot of people basically are limited in their self-expression and that it backs up on their body. They are not happy. They are not happy.
And this is where I need to bring in, we've only got about a minute more, and I need to just bring in the very important element of psychospiritual health. And this is also a cornerstone of your practice, how we can become more connected with the emotional and spiritual sides of our nature. So very briefly, talk a little bit about how all of this integrates from the mind-body emotional perspective.
Well, I love your definition of harvesting happiness. It's like, I think what's happened is that when we start coming more into an energetic of the heart and an empowerment of the heart as being the place from which we lead our life, then everything in our life becomes a source of happiness. We look at a flower, it brings happiness. We bring music, it brings happiness. I was just at a festival of bluegrass music. That makes me cry. That brings me happiness. I cry in good ways, okay? Going to nature makes me happy. Being with my new wife makes me happy. Being with my kids makes me happy. So it's like it's a constant receptivity. When we let go of a lot of the reactivity, we become attuned to what's present that nurtures us. Then it becomes our job to say, how do I take in more of that nurturing so that I can be part of the solution and extend that to other people rather than caught up in the reactivity and basically become so mad and upset at everything that we contribute to the negativity rather than contributing to the expansion.
This is an extremely important conversation that we will continue to have, and we will have you back again. We are out of time today, and it's important to understand the relationship between our mind, our body, our emotions, our psychological state of being, and how it contributes to our ability to either prevent disease and illness, or if we do have something, that we're better able to begin to help ourselves heal and manage what is present in our physical bodies. And I want to just make one quote of yours, Bertrand, about that we must be in a state of loving to live and living to love. And I think we should leave it at that. To learn more about Dr. Bertrand Babinet, please visit www.babinetics.com. And on Facebook, the handle is Babinetics. Here come those tunes. We'll be right back, and we'll carry on our conversation today with health empowerment in our healthcare system. Today, you're listening to Harvesting Happiness Talk Radio with Lisa Cypers Kamen.
We know that life is tough and that happiness can and does live along with adversity. We'll be right back to explain how on Harvesting Happiness with Lisa Cypers Kamen on toginet.com. Like us on Facebook at Harvesting Happiness and on Twitter at HH Talk Radio. Lisa returns with more of Harvesting Happiness following this short break.
Nothing gives happiness like a free gift. Lisa Cypers Kamen has made her first ebook, Got Happiness Now? 8 Keys to Unlocking a Joyful Life, available at no cost to everyone. Unwrap your complimentary copy now by visiting www.harvestinghappinesstalkradio.com.
Like what you hear on Harvesting Happiness Talk Radio? Subscribe to us on iTunes and get your weekly dose of joy downloaded free and easily to your computer or portable device. That's Harvesting Happiness Talk Radio on iTunes.
Welcome back to Harvesting Happiness with Lisa Cypers Kamen on Toginet, the show dedicated to promoting happiness, because happiness is a choice, and happiness can be cultivated and harvested. So let's get back to it. It's Harvesting Happiness on toginet.com. And now back to your host, Lisa Cypers Kamen.
Welcome back to Harvesting Happiness Talk Radio. If you're just joining us now, we are talking about empowering ourselves, taking charge of our health, our minds, our bodies, our emotions, our well-being, and really the effect that it makes on others. Because when we agree to stand up and take care of ourselves properly, to feed our bodies, our minds, our souls, and our spirits well, we can't help but create an environment that is hospitable to happiness. And my next guest is Talia Fuhrman. She has a degree in nutritional sciences from Cornell University and has contributed to Vegetarian Times, Veg News, Positive Impact, DiseaseProof.com, CrazySexyLife.com, and PsychologyToday.com, as well as others. She's the author of Love Your Body. Eat smart, get healthy, find your ideal weight, and feel beautiful inside and out. As the daughter of Joel Fuhrman, doctor and best-selling author of books like Eat to Live and Super Immunity, Talia Fuhrman grew up with a keen understanding about the life-changing power of food and its influence on the body. Talia shares her journey and advice for how other young women can find their ideal body weight, prevent disease, get radiant, clear skin, and also how to gain confidence, enjoy strong friendships, and explore interests that make them jump out of bed each morning with a huge smile. Good morning, Talia. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning. Well, you sure did open that up with just a beautiful way of wording that. So much was said in a short period of time. It's great to be here.
Well, it's wonderful to have you. And we briefly spoke before we began, and we're talking about the amazing website that you have. And I just have to encourage our listeners to go visit the website, taliafuhrman.com, because it is so cool. This is a woman whose education and interest is in nutrition, and the books that she writes is focusing on nutrition. But her website is about lifestyle. It's about how to create, I would say, Talia, a passionate, joyful lifestyle that begins with this concept of excellent self-care.
Yep, that's right. And the way I write on my website is taking the science of nutrition or creating a recipe, and I'll talk to you in a very funky, conversational way. It's just how I talk in real life. So it really does feel like I'm there with you, and I'm raving about my latest recipe creation, if that's what I'm talking about. So it's just, I hope that your listeners love it as much as I love working on it.
Well, it's very clear that you have love and passion infused there, and I think that is part of what we are talking about as it relates to taking good care of our bodies.
Absolutely. I want people to get just as passionate as I am about taking care of their health and not making it a fad diet and something that's unsustainable. Let's take care of our health for our entire lives, and I talk about how to do that in Love Your Body. And if I can do it, anybody can do it. I love the taste of food. I don't want to sacrifice pleasure for health. And that is something that we don't have to do. We have to change the stereotypes and misconceptions about living a healthy lifestyle. And we also have to retrain our brains to realize that it's not hard. It doesn't have to be inconvenient. It doesn't have to be too expensive. Let's stop making excuses and really delve into how we can accomplish this. And because we will learn about which foods are the most nutritious and why, then let's make delicious meals that are really easy to make. And that's Love Your Body just loaded with information that explains how to achieve this, all of this stuff.
And the notion that we don't have to spend a fortune to feed ourselves well and to treat ourselves well is very relevant for many, because not many people have a lot of extra income to go and buy specialty foods, to buy a lot of supplements, to perhaps even join a gym. And I think what we're saying here is that we can treat ourselves well and still be mindful of our pocketbooks.
Absolutely. It really comes down to education. And let's say, for example, what is the price difference between fresh greens versus frozen vegetables? And I did price comparisons, and I wrote them in the book. There's not a substantial price difference between fresh and frozen, generally speaking. But then let's take the price of, let's say, meat or something like that, and then compare that to beans or broccoli. And when it comes down to numbers, the junk food, generally speaking, isn't that much cheaper than the healthy foods. And it's really learning how to, like, let's say you go to your local health food store or your farmer's market, which is generally much cheaper if you're fortunate enough to live by one. But buying the basic ingredients that are really cheap, like beans are super cheap, just vegetables tend to be cheap, and then learning how to cook with them and make them really flavorful and delicious. And you can make like a big pot of soup and throw in lots of different spices, and then you can store it in your freezer for a whole week. Put some of it in your fridge, some of it in your freezer, and then you don't have to cook the rest of the week. Maybe you'll make some absolutely delicious muffins or some dessert too. That'll last a while. If you have a large family, you can make a bunch. And I want to teach people that, yes, it can be affordable, but you can also enjoy cooking more. I know a lot of people dread going to their kitchen, and they think the prospect of cooking is just not enjoyable. They don't want to do it. And I also want to change that, because you can, like, for me, I love to cook with my friends, or I love to cook while I'm listening to my favorite music, and I'll even dance while I'm cooking, or I will listen to an audiobook and make it really educational while I'm cooking. Like, there's just ways to live our lives on a daily basis that is a gift to ourselves, because there's nothing as valuable as our health. And, when you think about cost, having to get a disease or a health condition later in your life, and the cost of those medical bills, healthcare in America is one of the most expensive things, I think, and it's catastrophic to get that health condition, period, and then to have the medical bills on top of that. It's devastating.
And really what we're talking about is preventative medicine through nutrition and good self-care, that we can stave off a lot of the diseases that are associated with poor diet, poor sleep, a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. And really what I hear you saying is, by learning to nourish ourselves well, we can prevent some of these things from happening. Or if they do happen, the ability to build up our immune system and bounce back from them is greater.
It's absolutely fascinating. It's actually kind of magical that we are designed to eat plants. And I feel so thankful, blessed beyond blessed, that I was born to a nutrition expert who really pins the nail on the head with which foods are best for us. And to see how, even when I was a kid, I'd go to his medical office and I'd watch him not only help his patients lose lots of weight if they were overweight or obese, but they'd also get cured from their type 2 diabetes or autoimmune disorders. Somebody I know had breast cancer, and my dad, just via diet and also some chemotherapy, of course, but she doesn't have breast cancer anymore. It's absolutely amazing that we can really achieve full body wellness and prevent diseases. And once we get them, we can even cure them with food. It's really astonishing.
through your own life, you've experienced some chronic pain issues and other health challenges. Talk about how you use nutrition to achieve a healthier body and mind, probably, as well as you were going through this.
Thank you for asking me that question, because I was trying to be a pro tennis player when I was a teenager, and I was very, very athletic. And somehow I don't know if it was because I fell on the tennis court or I hurt a nerve that has nothing to do with what I eat or chemicals, purely like getting a paper cut or something physical like that. It really, really hurt when I got injured. And then learning how to cope with that sensation in my body of feeling something really sharp, that really trained my mind to say, okay, well, how are you going to make this day be the best that it can be, given the fact that you're in a lot of pain? And then I really worked through that. So I think when you go through any challenge at all, it can humble you, but also can keep things in perspective. And it's like, one of my favorite books actually is called The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. And it talks about how we can use obstacles in our lives to not only bounce back, but become better because the obstacles were given to us. We can't necessarily always change our circumstances, but we always can change our attitudes and we can change our actions. So going through a hardship, I think, makes you a richer person. It makes you a more interesting person. It can make you more empathetic or compassionate to other people's suffering. I view some struggles as an opportunity.
I agree with you. And in fact, we talk about this often on the show, that there are blessings of adversity. It is the opportunity that money can't buy, to be transformed positively by the experience if you actively choose to rise above victim consciousness. Like, oh, poor me, why did this happen to me? Rather than adopt something that's much more positive and proactive, where it's like, you know what, this has happened. How can I work with this and be better because of it?
Right. And that's the craziness of life, is that if you decide to be positive, if you decide to move forward with your head held high, not only are you going to become more confident and you're going to feel empowered that you were able to have that attitude and move forward like that, but then life works itself out in very interesting ways, and you might, let's say, meet somebody because you chose a certain path, or something happened to you. You might not be where you are a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, if you had a negative attitude. And so it's really like, be your own best friend, and you know that you owe it to yourself to move forward no matter what happens to you in the best way possible.
We are going to go to a break, and when we return, we're going to carry on the conversation with Talia Fuhrman, talking about empowering your health and exploring her book, Love Your Body, Eat Smart, Get Healthy, Find Your Ideal Weight, and Feel Beautiful Inside and Out. Check her out at taliafuhrman.com, on Facebook, Love Your Body 101, and on Twitter at Talia Fuhrman. Here come those tunes. We will be right back, and that is a promise.
We know that life is tough and that happiness can and does live along with adversity. We'll be right back to explain how on Harvesting Happiness with Lisa Cypers Kamen on toginet.com. Like us on Facebook at Harvesting Happiness and on Twitter at HH Talk Radio. Lisa returns with more of Harvesting Happiness following this short break.
Do you like Lisa's take on happiness, well-being, and human flourishing? Join us this spring as Harvesting Happiness launches online classroom programming where Lisa Cypers Kamen will offer her workshop series across the globe and from the comfort of wherever you are. Visit harvestinghappiness.com for more details.
Be a part of the Grateful Good. Grateful Nation brings together patients, families, friends, and staff of Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center to support the quality care and groundbreaking research at the medical center. Through new and traditional media, members of Grateful Nation share experiences, thank our caregivers and researchers, participate in sweepstakes, and gather to sponsor and host events and much more. Being grateful inspires others to be grateful as well. Isn't it time we jumpstart some perpetual gratitude? Visit Grateful Nation online to find out more at www.gratefulnation.org. Have a grateful day.
Welcome back to Harvesting Happiness with Lisa Cypers Kamen on Toginet, the show dedicated to promoting happiness, because happiness is a choice, and happiness can be cultivated and harvested. So let's get back to it. It's Harvesting Happiness on toginet.com. And now back to your host, Lisa Cypers Kamen.
Welcome back to Harvesting Happiness Talk Radio. If you're just joining us now, I am talking with Talia Fuhrman, who is in the house. We're talking about her new book, Love Your Body, Eat Smart, Get Healthy, Find Your Ideal Weight, and Feel Beautiful Inside and Out. And if you're just joining us now, I urge you to download this podcast on iTunes or any one of our other fabulous providers, including Stitcher, SoundCloud, and others, and share it, because sharing is caring. Talia, let's talk about love, because love is really and truly powerful medicine. And why is it so crucial?
Yeah, well, innately, we're programmed, we're social creatures, and it's so healthy for us to have the support and love of people who care about us. And so we should love ourselves completely, but also finding people in our lives, either friends that feel like family or family members that are really close friends, that it's absolutely fascinating that having those people in our lives promotes longevity and decreases our risk of getting a disease later in life. That is something I wrote about in Love Your Body, and all the research behind it. It's really nice to be able to see research studies now that show that close relationships are so powerfully disease protective and so incredible for our health.
And what you're speaking of is, I think, the strengthening of the immune system. When we have these good, loving, connected relationships, we tend to be, I think, less stressed. That doesn't mean stress doesn't exist in our daily lives, but we probably have a lower resting pulse, lower blood pressure, lower heart rate, calmer respiratory breathing. I'm assuming that is part of what happens when we've got this love effect going on.
Absolutely. It's the emotions that we feel when we do have these close relationships has a biochemical reaction, and it does strengthen our immune system, just like eating nutritious food strengthens our immune system, or exercise is good for us. Having close relationships is a health topic that is not stressed enough. So let's really focus on how to meet people. If we don't have those close relationships, they take time to develop. But what is a true friend? What is a toxic friend? It can be hard to meet people that you click with and genuine people who really form that love. So something I talk about that I really loved writing about in Love Your Body is how to become more magnetic, which is how to become a more attractive friend, how to really shine with who you are, how to become your best self so that way you attract the right people. There's so many components to finding the perfect friendship fit for yourself. But once you find them, your life is just changed forever in the best sort of way. So it's really, really important that people understand this concept and how important it is to find caring, empathetic friends that we have a lot in common with, including caring for your health and what we eat.
And let's talk about the loving what's inside in building self-esteem, in building self-love. And the necessity for that to be part of our operating system if we're to be successful in these other areas of our lives. And that's not often spoken about without it being in a psychobabble context. But really what you're talking about is the self-care.
Yes, absolutely. And there's so many components to self-care, but the basics are showing empathy for yourself and showing empathy for other people. And empathy is really the ability to put yourself in somebody else's shoes as if you were them and how they would feel with the words that you say. Are you saying negative things about other people, or are you saying positive things about other people? What is the foundation of being an admirable human being and somebody that you at the end of the day, you can go to bed happy with yourself. And when the happier you are with yourself and your decisions, the more fulfilling life you're going to have, and your confidence will just naturally improve because of that. And it's also a big component to loving yourself is actually educating yourself and about the world around you and becoming a more knowledgeable, educated person and figuring out how you can use your knowledge to make your life better, make the world a better place. I think we're living in an era right now which is unprecedented. We have social media to distract ourselves with. We can waste hours online or on Facebook or Instagram, or just waste time. Or we could read a great novel, a magazine. We could learn to play the piano, or something that is better for our brains and improves our versatility and attractiveness as a human being. So it's really a form of self-love, is understanding how to spend our time and how to become our best selves.
Beautifully said. Let's talk about making simple adaptive changes to what we eat and the way that we eat. You are an advocate for a plant-based nutrition plan.
I am, and I'm an advocate because that's what the science shows, and we're really meant to eat plants. Our bodies thrive on them. It's kind of like cars. They need gasoline to run, and we run on plant foods. And so if we don't want to end up getting heart disease or cancer later in life, let's figure out how to eat all of these nutrient-dense plant foods and make them taste absolutely wonderful and flavor them up, figure out how to make them not only delicious but easy to make. And Love Your Body, the Love Your Body book, is filled with recipes that I talk about. A creative passion of mine is I love playing around in the kitchen and figuring out how to incorporate healthy ingredients into unexpected places, or make a delicious, let's say, stir fry or soup or stew or even desserts. I love my ooey gooey brownies, and I don't use any sugar. I sweeten them with, let's say, whole dates, which are such a great sweetener. I generally use fruit in my desserts, but even my friends that eat conventional American diets, they love my cooking, and so it's really great to see people who aren't used to eating this way, they're like, wow, this is absolutely delicious.
I can imagine when you're saying that you sweeten your desserts with dates, the ooey gooey brownies. I'm like, I'm on that, because dates are they're a very meaty sweet source. So it feels like you're eating something very hearty when your dessert is sweetened with them. This is very cool, because it's all about making this plant-based diet very tasty, user-friendly, easy to use. And I think we probably should mention that the concept of cooking and communing in the kitchen or around the kitchen table, there is a certain therapeutic wisdom that comes from sitting around with people that you love, or even just community, friends and such, and having a meal together, breaking bread. That it's very soothing, it's very calming. It helps smooth out the day, if you've had a stressful day. So the elements of coming together is also a byproduct of what Kool-Aid you are brewing over there.
That's absolutely a wonderful, wonderful thing to mention, because it's pretty obvious that when we are sharing food with the people that we care about, it's usually it's a huge de-stressor, and it's like almost like the best part of my day when I do that. It's sharing your experiences and connecting with people. Some of my best memories are sharing food with people I care about.
Tell us a few helpful, impactful nutrients that we can employ in our day-to-day diet right here, right now, that will have a big impact or change on our well-being.
Mm-hmm. Figuring out how to make green leafy vegetables taste delicious in your life. Leafy greens are the most nutrient-dense plant foods on the planet, and if you want to get glowing skin, if you want to look your best and feel most energetic, eating greens, more greens. And it doesn't have to be in a green drink. If you love green drinks, that's great, and I actually think you can make them taste sweet if you put carrot juice or apple, and it's actually, they don't taste as bad as most people would assume. But figuring out, like, you can eat them in a stew, you can eat them in kale chips. You can, like, spice them up with cashew cheese, and, like, there's so many different ways to eat greens, and there's so many food blogs that teach you how to make these things. It's like a no-brainer to start playing around and figuring out which greens you love. You can love bok choy, you can love spinach, kale, Brussels sprouts. Those are just like broccoli. Like, if you don't like something, don't eat it. I don't want people to think that they should have to force themselves to like something either. It's figuring out, which ones you love. And even if let's say hypothetically you don't like broccoli, what if you were to put a little bit of broccoli in a stew with like lots of spices or something like that? You'd still be eating a little bit. But it's greens, and then also berries are the most nutrient-dense fruits, and I have a whole chapter on why that's the case in the Love Your Body book. And actually, surprisingly, there's foods like onions and mushrooms and garlic, and they're incredibly anti-cancerous, so potent. And my dad, when he talks about them in his lectures, my dad is, I know you mentioned this already, Dr. Joel Fuhrman, and he author of Eat to Live and all of that. But to see him speak about what is in these plant foods and how they affect the body, it's absolutely fascinating, and I talk about them in my book as well.
To learn more, please check out Talia Fuhrman at taliafurman.com, and on Facebook, Love Your Body 101, and on Twitter, Talia Fuhrman. Once again, the book is Love Your Body, Eat Smart, Get Healthy, Find Your Ideal Way, and Feel Beautiful Inside and Out. We are out of time this week, but I wanted to share a few thoughts before we part. Happiness is not a destination. It cannot be bought, sold, or traded. Happiness will never invite you to the party. Happiness simply comes down to a choice to show up each and every day in the world with passion, purpose, place, and meaning. Thanks for joining us on Harvesting Happiness Talk Radio. This is Lisa Cypers Kamen, and my amazing guest today, wishing you kind thoughts, kinder words, and the kindest of actions. Until next time, remember, happiness is an inside job. Happiness is your inside job. And I want to give a shout out of deep appreciation to our producers who make us shine each and every week. We appreciate you and thank you. Until next time, go out and make it a great day and do something nice for someone else. And if you don't see the smile in the person across from you, give them yours.
Thanks for joining us on Harvesting Happiness Talk Radio with Lisa Cypers Kamen. Join us every Wednesday morning live at 10 to 11 Central Time here on Toginet Radio. Then harvest your own happiness anytime from the comfort of wherever you are with free downloadable podcasts available at iTunes. To learn more about Lisa's filmography, felicitation, and philanthropy, please visit harvestinghappiness.com. Each week, Harvesting Happiness presents engaging trendsetters, exploring our world through science, art, medicine, media, music, philosophy, politics, and the human heart, whose perspectives on life are sure to inspire, provoke, and engage. Lisa's diverse guests are a proactive collection of the greatest thinkers and doers who have devoted their lives to creating a better world in which to live. Like Lisa says, happiness is an inside job. Happiness is your inside job. Spread more joy by liking us on Facebook at Harvesting Happiness and following us on Twitter at #HarvestingHappiness. Then join us again next week at this same time on the Toginet Radio Network.